Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday or Friday, depending on where you're joining us from today. I'm Kyler Cheatham from The Confluential, and I am very excited to be your host today for our weekly live cast, The Confluential Live. I am joined, as I am every week, by Adam Cheatham here from The Confluential as well. And today we're going to talk a little bit about and do a live demo of our new selection generator tool. Or shortlist tool. So we've put it out in the market, gotten some feedback around it. And oh, we lost Adam. Let's bring him back if we can.
Sorry
There we
about
go.
that.
You're welcome back. Strong start, strong start. But we've gotten some feedback in the marketplace, overwhelmingly positive, surprisingly mostly positive from our vendor partners, which we appreciate. So the goal of the tool, right, is it's made by a custom data set that is constantly evolving. So all of the feedback that is provided to it is an opportunity for the data set to continue to learn and add unbiased value to the marketplace, which again is just our overall mission of giving that access to a shortlist tool. So we'll talk a little bit more about it and then give you a live demo and talk about the way the industry has responded to it and kind of what's next for the selection process. But before I get into it, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. We do have the chat feature wherever you're joining us from today. It aggregates all of the chats. You can pop any of your questions, comments. If you like the tool, if you don't like the tool, let us know in the comments and we can kind of talk about that or address questions live, especially when we're going over the demo. So just to test that feature, let me know yes or no in the comments if you have tried it or if you have not tried it. If you haven't tried it, the QR code is right up here on the screen. It'll take you directly to the page. Again, it's a free public tool. So go ahead and give that a scan. With that, Adam, tell us a little bit about how it's been the week after you announced a new selection tool or shortlist tool to the
Yeah,
marketplace.
so just by way of quick introduction, my name is Adam Cheatham. I'm the CEO of The Confluential. And we have taken an approach to this, which is, I think, we're learning is more novel than I think we expected, which is interesting because, you hear a lot of philosophy and approaches that are based on information being king and accessible and all of that stuff. So our goal with this tool was to make information accessible in a way
Mhm.
that it ought to be, right? Nobody should have a monopoly of thought on what it means to narrow to a short list of potential ERP vendors. And we believe in that quite strongly at the Confluential. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
that type of information in the marketplace is about helping people on what's a difficult journey by giving them the information that can be consolidated effectively and making it free and accessible. So that is what we are seeking to do in saying, look, narrowing your prospects of an ERP to a short list of 3, 4 vendors isn't something that should be overly hard, overly expensive, or overly time consuming. I've done it for decades and I've had many conversations with clients, which in the first 20 minutes, I've known what their shortlist is. And we
Mhm.
just think that it's fair to share that type of knowledge with people and say, well, if I can figure that out, I can teach an AI to do that. And that's what we've done. So we've created a
Mhm.
proprietary database that's based on decades of experience in ERP and as well as informed by the market overall. And we're providing that access to clients for free so that they anybody out there, frankly, whether they're a client or not, can start to understand what this picture looks like. The way that it's set up is you ask some questions of the person using the tool. That's River AI will ask you some questions about your business, about your pain points, and the like, and it will generate what it is as a useful short list for you for free within a couple of minutes.
Mhm.
Obviously, this has generated quite a lot of responses in the marketplace,
Mhm.
and most of them they're overwhelmingly positive. It's been
Mhm.
great to see. even software vendors. I've had conversations with
Mhm.
folks from many software organizations
Mhm.
that are based in the U.S., in other parts of the world like Latin America, and they are very interested in understanding how we did it and making sure that information about their system is up to date, which is fantastic. So for vendors who are listening into this, we want to know, test it, try it, tell us where
Yeah.
you think it should be different. We can't serve
Mhm.
as a mouthpiece to say, we will only ever recommend any one
Mhm.
product, because I don't think that's fair to anybody, including that product, right? We want them to earn business, right? As opposed to overall make it easy to sell software and not have the challenge that is representative of ERP. But if vendors have thoughts and feedback or materials that they'd like us to incorporate into our knowledge base, we're open to that. And those are conversations that we're having
Mhm.
actively. So that's been fun. System integrators have been really excited about it and sharing their opinions
Mhm.
on this. Wouldn't it be cool if it could do this? Wouldn't it be cool if it could do that? Um, Clients are coming to us and grateful that we've given them something that gives them at least a double check on their math. Right. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, they're working hard to figure out how much to spend on this type of an investment, what it is it's ought to look like, and those types of things. And they're very appreciative of the additional lens and the informed approach. So overall, we've been excited about it. We've gotten some I'll call them interesting responses as well from organizations that aren't quite so appreciative. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
in my opinion, if you're going to have a problem with information being on the internet and accessible, then maybe you have a problem with something else. And system integrators have reached out to me upset about this. Other selection firms have reached to me upset about this. And in my opinion, that's I'm not doing anything with this tool. The Confidential isn't doing anything with this tool that isn't out there and available. The only difference is we built a
Mhm.
database that's built on our experience, and we want to be able to help. And
Mhm.
being able to help, we think, is the right thing to do. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that that makes a lot of sense. And I also, we have talked a lot in the industry over the past year about using ChatGPT for your software selection because that, obviously has come into the mainstream of just enterprise technology tools in the last
yeah,
year, right? And so, can you use ChatGPT for your selection? We see a lot of people come to us and say, like, hey, I asked ChatGPT or I asked Perplexity or I asked, Copilot, which I mean, don't ask Copilot. Obviously, that has an answer for you. But
Microsoft.
yeah, right. So, and I think those are all great tools. I mean, there's nothing wrong with discovering what software is best for you. And that's the point of the discovery process of understanding what am I looking for, especially in today's marketplace where we really are seeing the monolithic ERPs be something of the past and more of a focused solution and more of an agile IT stack that is more flexible or it is more modernized and also more specific. So I think that's something that the industry, you can battle it all you want, but it's certainly something that is readily available. We just made it more quality, right? From actual qualitative and quantitative feedback from unbiased selections. And that, is the goal of the tool. So with that, I'm going to give you a quick demo and we'll play with it just a little bit here. And then what I want you guys to do in the comments is put in any sort of answers to these questions, and we can actually do a live scenario. So we'll take a look at it here just in a quick second because many people are asking like, how do I sign up to get access to it? It's on our website. It's completely free. You can utilize it. You can check your own shortlist. You can do whatever you want with it. You can try and break it. We welcome that. That helps us learn, it helps the tool learn, it helps the industry learn. So, with that, let's take a look at it.
And
So,
as
again,
Kyler's pulling it up, I'll answer a couple of these quick questions. How often is it updated? How customizable is it, and all that jazz? the idea here is to create a tool that continues learning, right? So how we update it will include all kinds of new sources of information as we go. And when we start thinking about integrations and deployment models and those types of things, those will all be pieces of this conversation. And as the tool learns, they will become bigger and more important parts of the discussion, and we'll be able to provide even better answers.
Cool. Very good. All right. So introducing River AI. So again, this is a focused ERP shortlist. And what it is, it gives you kind of all of the details around applicants, and be able to use that as a part of your analysis, just as you would an internet search. This aggregates actual consultant selection information as opposed to just scraping and scrolling the internet for things that software vendors have paid for as far as placement, things like that. So when we look at it, we go down here and we talk about the proprietary Hatch database. It helps you narrow down options. It's not ChatGPT. It's really a comprehensive tool that brings the experience in a unique way to match your business. So let's get started, Adam. Tell me a little bit about your business and why you're considering a new ERP.
Yeah, and a couple of things. One of the things I think is fun about this, just because at the end of the day, we're all people here too. We have our own, likes and hobbies and those types of things. The Hatch chart database, I want to give a little bit more information about that, because this is
Mhm.
where this is our knowledge space. This is our knowledge center that we built. And the thought process is based on fly fishing, where you have to match the hatch very often on how do I figure out what it is I should be fishing with. Um, the idea here is similar, right? How do you figure out where what you ought to be fishing for when we're talking about ERP? So we built that ourselves to create that knowledge base, and we're continuing to teach it every day. So as we think about this, the overall goal here is to give you an opportunity to speak to the tool, speak to River AI. So when we start talking about getting started, we've seen all kinds of responses, anything from quick one-line questions for a small business that does manufacturing to more comprehensive things. The more information you put in the tool, the better your answers are going to be. So,
Mhm.
what I would suggest that we enter in here, we say, I'm a medium-sized distribution company that focuses on consumer packaged goods. I'm having trouble with traceability of materials as well as my supply chain lead times. My
Okay,
I'll,
we're good.
too fast for you.
I am traceabilities of materials as well as what?
Supply chain lead times.
Okay, what else do you want to put?
I need better business intelligence and want to be able to cut down on manual error prone processes.
Good?
And you can share as much information as you like. That will all be included in the analysis that's provided. So the more you give River AI to think about, the better its information will be. It will not judge your spelling or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Especially good for me.
um,
And to be fair, I can't see, so, like, let's, like, give me some grace over here.
no, you did
Okay.
great. So let's do this. Move on.
Alright, so what industry does your business operate in?
Distribution and logistics, and as our tool learns, it will start thinking less about that question if it already knows the answer, but the more information we get right now, the
And
better.
you
So
can push
distribution and logistics.
other too. This is basically a lot of the answers that we've had, that people have
Yeah.
picked, as the tool learns. It's an intelligence tool, so you can always pick
Yes.
other and explain more to the tool.
Yes, of course.
How many employees do you have?
Let's say 501 to 2,000.
Okie dokie. What is your company's annual revenue?
Let's do. Um, let's go with 100 million to 250 million.
Are you currently using ERP software?
Yes.
What kind of ERP software are you using?
I'm currently using Microsoft Great Plains.
What are the primary goals for implementing an ERP system?
Improved traceability, better financial visibility, and more efficient processes.
Do you prefer an on-premise ERP or a cloud-based ERP?
Let's go with cloud-based. Using Microsoft Great Plains for long enough on premises caused me problems.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
And this is another great opportunity to round out any other things that you guys want to be able to tell the tool so that it can provide you with a comprehensive response. For right now, we'll just simply say no. But if there's anything that you thought about and you wanted to say, we actually aren't using just ERP, we have a fully integrated best of breed environment that's causing us problems with integrations, or I have international requirements where I need to be able to track multi-language, multi-currency. I have particular unique requirements because I'm a process manufacturer or I'm in aerospace and defense, so I need to be ITAR compliant. All of those things are good things for the tool to know so that it can
Mhm,
narrow in on this. Because at the end of the day, this isn't a Google search. It's not Chat GPT. It's
mhm,
designed to know the types of things it needs to. And
mhm.
so anything that would be a differentiating requirement for you, something that you consider to be critical to your ability to grow into your digital transformation would be good information to put in here.
Okay, so maybe give us like a certain functionality that would be important for this company.
Say I have multiple locations um, in multiple countries, and I need to track multi-currency.
All right, so you have to accept the terms and conditions, or you don't have to, either way. Um, the other one will just say, for privacy reasons. So it gives you a data capture here. So I'll put in my information.
And the goal here for complying with terms and conditions is so that we want to email you this short list, right? What we want
Yeah.
to have happen, like, yeah, we could put it in the bottom of the text, and we're going to do that as well. We won't want it to be something that you can take with you. which is why we want to email it to you. And we
Mhm.
don't want to be in a position where we're emailing you unwanted things. That's not the goal. But because of privacy standards and those types of things,
Mhm.
we just want to be doubly careful with saying we're going to send you an email. Can you give us approval to do that? So that when we send you your shortlist over email, you can actually tell us that that's what you want. And if you don't, that's okay. When no hard feelings. We can't give you a shortlist without it. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice part about the email piece is it also gives you an opportunity to book time to go through and ask your questions again for free. So I think that's helpful. But let's see what we got here. Okay, so here's a preview of the shortlist. Again, the shortlist will be more succinct with a lot more information in your email. So based on the information you provided, here are 4 recommendations that might be a great fit for a growing
And your
distribution.
your window is showing just kind of like the bottom third of the chat box. So if you can move the whole website window so that we see more of it, that would be
You want
helpful.
this?
Yes. So now when you scroll down, we'll be able to read more of it, right?
Yeah, I think you would be able to do that anyway, but this is fine if that's what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Um, so we have one, which is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. So a lot of times when you put in a current system, it's going to give you information about other versions of that system that's in the marketplace. And what it does is it gives you pros and cons. Um, so pros, it has a strong BI with Power BI scalability and extensive partner network. Cons, it might be overkill for simpler operations, and can be quite a steep learning curve if you don't have that kind of training infrastructure already established. It goes down to NetSuite. So NetSuite's comprehensive, cloud-based, obviously. Some pros are it's a strong financial capabilities, multi-subsidiary management, customability. Cons is it can be very complex for smaller businesses and higher costs compared to some of the other SMB options in the marketplace. So Infor Cloud Suite distribution. So Infor has a lot of industry specific solutions that are really tailored for distributors. Great option here if you're looking for that kind of deeper functionality in those areas like inventory, order management, and procurement. So pros, very AI driven insights. So if you're looking for kind of those AI competencies, this is a great option. Cons is that implementation can be complex for these, so you certainly will need support on that. And some new users report slow customer service support. That totally depends, right, on your local team, your implementation planning, all of those different things, which is why this is just a short list, right? There's so
Yeah.
many other things that go into this conversation as well. So SAP Business One, a lot of people are like, why? SAP Business One is still a great option for a lot of people. As much as they want you on their HANA platform, it's great for small to mid-sized businesses with a lot of very mature functionality. Depending on what you need, it's very robust and has strong reporting. And of course, it's part of SAP, which has a global presence in the marketplace. It can be higher priced and its potential for add-ons with this system, specifically with SAP putting more of their R&D into the HANA platform. Depending on which suite you choose here, you might need more industry specific add-ons or modules. But again, within the SAP marketplace, that's very easy to get. So then it gives you an opportunity to email us if you have
Mhm.
questions, if you want to go through your shortlist. If you were like, well, I really thought Odoo was a great option for me, you're able to kind of book some time and see why the tool, kind of dig into the database in the back end, why the tool didn't recommend something like Odoo. So you can get more information on if you wanted a modular and open source system, here's what you would need to kind of tweak to your processes to kind of meet that system where where it is. So it just gives you that access and that information without having to kind of figure out which Infor version do I need, which SAP version do I need, which Microsoft version do I need. It does a lot of that heavy lifting for you.
And again, the goal with this is to give you a list to be dangerous with, right? If you don't agree with it, and you say, look, I really like Epicor, and I've heard great things about it. We're not here to authoritatively tell you not to do something,
Mhm.
right? You will know your business better than anybody else. But what we would seek to do is to continue to give you access to information and experience that you can leverage without cost, right? Set up some time to chat with us. Ask us, why isn't Epicor on this short list? And we'll dig into that and say, you know
Mhm.
what? Um, that's a great question. What makes you think it ought to be? And you say, well,
Mhm.
as a distributor, I've heard great things about their transportation modules and those types of things. And we can talk through that and say, actually, what you might find is that these systems do that just as well. And now that we talk about you as an organization, you are in more of the $150 million range. So maybe finance and supply chain, Microsoft is too big for you. And if you wanted to run with Epicor in that place, this is how we would suggest you think about that challenge. And so what that allows us to do is to continue giving you access to the information that's useful, that ought to be accessible to you, so that you can make good
Mhm.
decisions. From there, it becomes a conversation of, now, how do you do this well? I can promise you, every single one of the expert witness cases that I've been involved in has had absolutely nothing to do with whether or not the software works. The software
Mhm.
works just fine. And in 9 out of 10 cases, the fact that the software works just fine and you're directionally accurate on which one of these software packages would fit, the rest of the conversation comes down to, how do you implement it? Each one of
Mhm.
these systems in this short list will implement differently. Microsoft Finance and Supply Chain going to be extremely detail
Mhm.
oriented in the implementation. You have to be able to tell that software what you want it to do and how you want it to do it, which is fine. That can be an advantage, especially for a complex organization. For less complex organizations, things like NetSuite, Business One are going to be more rigid in saying, this is how that process is done in this software, and you don't have a ton of options. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a thing, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
what do you need in a software and how do you
Mhm.
implement it well? Infor gives you a little bit more of a blend between the two from a cloud suite perspective. And so you have some influence over configurations that you don't have with things like NetSuite, but it doesn't require you to know all the answers like Microsoft will. Again, not good things, not bad things, just things that we want to be able to help you in your ERP journey figure out and plan for. And at the end of the day, if that's the best that we can do to help you and you're off and on your way, that's the goal. If you find that you
Mhm.
need more help, we will of course offer. That's what we're here for.
Mhm.
We're here to help. We're not here to create some type of a strange dynamic between us and clients that leverages our experience and knowledge as if it were something that belongs under lock and key.
Yeah.
That's not fair to anybody. And
Yeah.
so we want to be able to help you implement well, focus on the things that matter, because most organizations that are described the way that I described the one in this that Kyler wrote in could pick any of these software packages as a result
Mhm.
of a good,
Mhm.
solid selection, right? Let's make sure we do all the rest of our due diligence on
Mhm.
figuring out which one of these four is the right one for us. Pick it, buy it, and then focus on getting it right. That's the hard part.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so I'm going to stop sharing this. We have a few questions about specific um, selections. So I encourage all of you to do that. We will go through your questions right now for the Q&A piece, but I encourage you all to try it. If you find something, I've had people already reach out to me and be like, hey, I tried it. I really liked it. It was a great user experience, but I do think this system should have been in there. Then we set up a call. They tell me why, and we look at the data set and see if there's something that needs to be enhanced there. It is absolutely a community driven tool. So we invite you to continue to provide that feedback. So let's get into the questions here. Thank you all for these great questions. If we don't get to them all in this conversation, I will certainly go back in and comment to them. And so when we, let's see, let's take the first one from Bite Size, which is actually our sister podcast over there. So, how customizable is the input process for users? Can they specify integration needs, deployment models, compliance requirements, those types of things? To you.
Gotcha. You froze there for just a brief second. So
Oh,
customizable is input. You can put whatever you want in there. We did do our due diligence in trying to break the tool by asking inappropriate questions that don't belong on the internet. I will promise you that you will not get any good answers to any of your strange, inappropriate questions. So that's a we are not here to replicate the Tay experience for Microsoft. That didn't go well, and we don't want that. But we customize any the some of those freeform inputs. Some of them are direct questions, right? We have ranges
mhm,
of revenue, how many employees, what industry are you in, so that we can help kind of narrow that way. Manufacturing is easy, right? But if you put in production or manufacturing, discrete manufacturing, this, that, or the other, those are also answers in your descriptors that will help us, right? So use those free-form fills effectively and answer the direct questions, and we'll figure it out from there. The tool is
mhm.
meant to be good and solid for you to be able to use.
Absolutely. And again, it's a short list, right? So once you have that short list and you've put in all you can with the automation, as we know, automation can only do so much. It does not have a human brain, right? So once you have this list of requirements, I think the healthy part about that is the thought process starts going is what do I actually need? Where are my
Mhm.
integrations? What are the specific things that make me competitive as a business? And those pieces are part of the requirements gathering, which we know AI has taken
Mhm.
over a lot of requirements gathering too. So when we look at like the validity of the consultant, if you're a good consultant, you have nothing to worry about when AI comes to the marketplace. It actually helps enhance the tool that you're utilizing, right? And the service and efficiencies that you're giving to your clients. So I encourage you, if you are a consultant out there, lean into these types of
Mhm.
things, ask them questions, and integrate it as a part of how you remain competitive. Knowing how to use these tools, being literate with this type of AI, both on the implementation AI side for quality assurance, all those different pieces for testing, and also on the front end for selection, requirements, that's going to make you a better all around
Mhm.
consultant and more effectively service your customers because they won't be trying to do all of this
Yeah.
themselves, right? Nobody really wants to do a DIY implementation. They do it because they were burned by a bad consultant at one point and don't know who they can
Yeah.
trust in that type of thing. So there's lots of opportunities for you to kind of get involved in these types of different things. When it comes to if you see a specific area, definitely shoot us an email and be like, hey, just so you know, I put this in the tool. The email address is right in your answers that you get via email. And you can say, I would love to hear more about this. You don't have to book a call. You don't have to do any of
Mhm.
that. Your email goes to a real live person and you're able to ask those
Yeah.
questions. So that was a great
But
question.
I love.
Let's
Hold
go
on, I
in.
want to pick one because I think there's an irony to this.
Why do you steal my
Well,
thunder,
because
man? You're gonna have to just take over the moderation if you
I'm
continue to
excited.
cherry
And
pick
look,
questions.
anybody that knows me well enough knows that I'm excitable. So there are things that are fun with this. But what I think there's an irony to this is
Which one do you want?
Ben Waddell says this is really cool. Love how straightforward and easy it is. And then the next question, because there's a bit of irony in that his system did not show up on that list, which maybe it shouldn't have, which is fine. But the next question, I believe his company would show up on, which is what ERP works best for a manufacturing company with 3 plants and 200 employees, right? I think that IFS is a very strong
Mhm.
manufacturing tool. My guess is that it would
Yeah.
also put out Epicor as a fit for that, as well as Infor. And just guessing, I would encourage you
Mhm.
guys to check my math on those types of
Mhm.
things. But and then somebody from NetSuite will say, well, we do manufacturing too. Why isn't our name on the list? And I would be
Yeah.
curious to find out what
Yeah.
that would look like. And the answer is because, based on our knowledge base, these are the best fits. And the goal here isn't
Mhm.
to say there is only one software package that will work for you. It's to say that you have options. And here's a quick way of
Mhm.
cutting down to a list that makes sense, that should be useful for you. And we'll continue to keep our knowledge base up to date in the interest of making sure that our information is the most up to date and accurate it can be. So
Absolutely. And I think in this specific example, when it says what ERP works best for a manufacturing company with 3 plants and 200 employees, I did a scenario with manufacturing on my LinkedIn channel where I did the exact same screen share and took you through this. And I got just what Adam said, which was IFS, Epicor, N4, and then I did get SAP S4 HANA because I put in our current system is SAP. So that piece of it probably wouldn't be something with 200 employees. SAP, maybe, right? Maybe. It just totally depends on what you're looking for. But the piece of that there is that is very general information, and the tool helps you get more specific. Okay, you might have 200 employees, but do you make $1 billion in revenue? Like, are you that large? Or is it a
maybe you got a lot of
smaller?
robotics.
Yeah, exactly. So that all of those come, and I just want to remind everyone that when it comes to picking the right system, it totally depends on the local support team too, right?
Yeah.
There's sometimes when we go to places across the globe that have a magnificent vendor support team that might not have been the first system that popped into our mind, but it's a great culture fit for that organization. They're vibing, they have, really good synergies, they're feeling supportive, they're feeling confident. That is a huge piece of the selection process because any of those 4 systems technically and functionally could work for you. It's all about how
Mhm.
you're implementing it and working and staying in that partnership. So that to me is really the main deciding factor that you kind of need to have someone help you measure and really trust your instincts in that piece. If it feels wrong in the demos, if they're not answering your questions, if they're not being showing up to your relevant functionalities, like super cool that you can do this and this and this and this, and that's on the roadmap and it's in R&D, and that's all great, right? But what about my specific functionality and my specific integration? Being able to see things like that is very, very helpful in the selection process.
Yep. Well, I think that one of the things that comes to mind as you're talking about that is I talked to a fella recently. His name's Albert, and he was talking to me about Latin American ERP systems. And this is
Hmm.
something that I believe is a one of the far more complex ERP markets out there, because
Hmm.
Latin American businesses, they just operate different, and that's okay. You know, um, you should ask those questions, because knowing that
Absolutely.
with the
Yeah.
tool and being able to answer to that is one thing, but that's when you start getting into the things that do make things a bit more unique, right? Um, the market for ERP in Europe versus the market for ERP in North America is not
Hmm.
going to be that different. The market for ERP in Southeast Asia is going to be different. The market for ERP in Latin America, like I mentioned, going to be different. And so what we're going to want to do is be able to understand what makes you unique. And if you're in one of those more unique markets, let's talk about that. Let's have a conversation there, so you can understand where it is our information and our shortlist might be useful, and where it is we might be
Hmm.
able to connect you with somebody that can do a little bit better, to answer those. I'd be
Hmm.
happy to put you in touch with Albert. and be able to leverage,
Oh, yeah.
give you a chance to leverage his experience with the Latin American markets in ERP, because that's
Mhm.
important. That connection is
Oh,
what's
yeah.
the what we're trying to do with this. Do the right thing for people that are trying to do something pretty stinking hard, which is implement a new
Mhm.
ERP system. We're not here to try to corner you into using our services. If you do, great. We're happy to help. However,
Cool.
but we're here to help make your journey better by giving you a better shot at success.
Okay. Let's get into some of these other questions. Let's see. Um, this one is another scenario. It's a longer one, but I'm going to read it for our audio listeners. What ERP considerations are most important for US based companies expanding into EMEA and APAC next year, different world markets? With SAP and Oracle NetSuite, what would you recommend for global compliance and multi entity reporting at scale? This, this is a great question and great things to you could potentially put into the tool. But I think this one, SAP wins it hands down. You would need that level. I don't think NetSuite could handle something at that level. But what
Well,
do you
I think that this gets down to those two products are very different with regard to their ability to handle complexity, right? I
Mhm,
implemented NetSuite for a European company that had e-commerce capabilities in distribution centers in the U.S. and Europe, and they sourced all of their products from China, right? So they had
mhm,
multinational global needs, but NetSuite was a perfect fit for them
mhm,
because their growth aspirations worldwide were significant, but their business model was pretty simple. Um, on the
mhm,
flip side, we've talked about SAP, we've talked about Oracle ERP Cloud, we've talked about Infor as more globally complex systems in the past with clients where you start thinking about, okay, if I have a large, if I have distribution and manufacturing centers that are all over the U.S. And now I want to open up a production facility in Shanghai in China. I
mhm,
want to be able to have that service the APAC and the Australia, New Zealand, Oceania type of area, and then I also want to have a distribution center in Germany that can access the rest of Europe. Now our model just got way more complicated, right? So Oracle NetSuite not likely to be very good for that. But I think what you're going to find with the tool is as you start to explain how complex your business gets, it's going to recognize that complexity and match you with a tool that fits and is appropriate. Because that's where we're going to be really looking to add value and saying, how do I help by understanding a business quickly, its complexity and its needs, and be able to drive into something that can shorten down some of the effort that a lot of organizations spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on to
mhm.
get to just a playlist.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But this is a great question and definitely something a lot of people need to consider. I think when you're moving into new global markets, the biggest thing to do is really sit down and look at your requirements. Even everything from understanding global compliance, but also global payments, all of those different pieces that you need to understand because it could be different in each even county to city to area of the
Mhm.
world when it comes to what you need to do. So that's a big piece of requirements gathering before you choose the right system, right? It's a journey, not a perfect destination. In the fact that when you're gathering all of this information and discovering that about what your needs are as a business, you might find that your short list is shifting and you might use the tool again when you're like, maybe I didn't need that and I thought I did. And
Yeah,
that's just the nature of it. That's not a bad thing or a negative thing. That's just what the exercise is for. And that's why it's important to have provider agnostic tools. So you're able to go and say, I've changed my mind, or these are new requirements that I just sourced from the manufacturing team. I'm in accounting. I didn't know that. Those types of different mechanisms. So let's go to um, this is a good one. What cloud ERP should I choose if I have no internal IT staff?
So this is a bit of a trick question because if you have software, you have internal IT staff. Somebody is doing this, right? It might be your CEO because you're a small company, and your
Yeah.
CEO is also your CIO, and whatever. Somebody is handling your technology, and if somebody isn't handling your technology somewhere, you shouldn't be talking about ERP. You should be talking about security.
Mhm.
If you have an email address, you have somebody who is running internal IT. So to be fair to that. Now, what I can say about this particular question, though, is that there are certain software packages that are needier than others when it comes to IT support.
Mhm.
Notorious for needing a massive team of developers to maintain it, cloud or on premise, SAP, right? So, not that one. um, on the flip side, you find a lot like I like where Mick is headed here on the Acumatica question. Acumatica can be pretty easy to handle for a small internal staff. So can NetSuite. Those are oriented towards needing fewer people, as few as possible, because they manage your software as a service, right? So they will do that for you, and there's a lot of benefits in that. Shouldn't be thinking about Odoo. Odoo, from a small business perspective, in a small staff, Odoo requires a staff to help maintain it, which
Mhm.
is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great open source platform. Open source ish. They don't like it when you call them open source, but you have more access to their code. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by using the wrong words here, but there's one. Epicor, IFS, Infor requires some support. Microsoft requires more support.
Mhm.
So it's more of a tiered basis of what's going to get you there. But make no mistake about it, if you have an email address for your organization or a web page, you have an IT
Mhm.
department. You just don't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been kind of this weird trend of like, get because we're all business technologists, things like that. And that's not it, my friends. So when we look at an IT department, they're part of the business, right? They might have been siloed in the past and in the IT basement, and you didn't know, you never called out when they had to fix your computer, but that's not the modern IT team. It, just like the modern CIO. The CIO used to be 20 years ago in charge of only the technical aspects, and now they are a true business leader, and that's kind of the modern CIO. And so when you look at an ERP system specifically, you're looking at your core operations. That's why these projects are so large, because they touch every area of the business for the most part, and specific behaviors that our core foundational competencies of any healthy business are going to be
Oh,
scrutinized. Things like, we hear this all the time. Like, someone comes to us and says, AI is my strategy for 2025. I'm ready for automation. I'm ready for all of these different autonomous systems, robots, and on my manufacturing floor. And we're into it. Like, we're here for that. We love the idea of innovation. But then we get down into those discovery questions, and we don't even know where our data is. We don't know how it's stored, how it's organized, how it's managed. And when we do these types of discovery questions, the goal here is start to stimulate that prep work for a new system or an implementation, because there are months and months and months of prep work for these types of, I don't care who you are, if you're a massive company or if you're a very small company, there is prep work. One of those is understanding your organizational assessment. What does my IT team look like? Who's in charge of my technology? Who will be managing this system? How will they be managing this system? Do we need additional outside support to manage this system? If we engage that support, how do we ensure we maintain ownership and our information is proprietary to us? All of those are questions that you have to ask yourself with these types of shortlists, because really, for that type of company, an Epicor, an Infor, an Acumatica, those could all work. It totally depends on who is managing the technology and what it looks like. Or are you bringing in a managed service provider? Because that's always an option too. And they manage all of that
Yeah.
for you, and you're comfortable with that. That's your business model. That's totally fine. You just have to have the budget to know that you're, paying for an outside IT team. But all of these
Yeah.
things, the thesis here is that this tool is supposed to get you thinking about those things while giving you some access to real defined data in the selection space, not something you found on ChatGPT that's like, you know, SAP S4 HANA. That's super. But what kind, where, all of these different things in for cloud solutions,
Why?
right? Yeah.
Like the
What
most
does that
important question you want to
mean? Yeah.
ask. Yeah, it's one of the most important questions you want to ask when somebody says you should buy SAP is why?
Hmm.
Why or why
I mean,
not, right? The answer still
yeah,
might be yes, but
yeah.
why?
And if you can answer that, that's the first conversation, because a lot of times we go into organizations and say, I'm sorry, Susan, but your technology is not ready for an implementation. You need to spend some time looking at your
Yeah.
processes, getting alignment, understanding what budget means. So many people are shocked when we go into an organization as technology consultants and don't recommend technology, but it happens all the time because the business is just not prepped enough in order to do that. And we would be doing them a disservice if we sold them a piece of technology or sold them on a system that they simply were not ready to implement. That would be the
Yeah.
wrong thing to do.
Well, I think that dovetails quite nicely with Mick's question on what's the process look like once you get your shortlist, right? This is an important question, and I think that this is what I think we should talk about next week on our live and get into the details. But to kind of give you a high over level view, you get your shortlist, right? What you should think about next, and where Kyler is headed with the commentary that she has, is you should then start looking at your organization at the enterprise architecture level. How
Mhm.
is your organization built? What are your strategic objectives? How are your people helping you accomplish them? What are your processes that help influence your business towards actually being successful? And what technology do you have in place that maybe you'll replace or maybe that's going to stick around? All of those questions are the questions that you need to ask next. How are those four pillars interdependent and connected? We talk about confluences at the confluential. Shocker, that's where our name comes from. Another river analogy. But the overall conversation becomes, how do these things influence one another? And when I lift one of them out and drop something else in its place, how does that create an impact on the other parts of the business and work streams that confluence with that piece of it? You can't lift out your strategy and replace it wholesale without impacting your people and your processes and your technology. The same as you can't lift out your technology wholesale and replace it without impacting your strategy, your people, and your
Mhm.
processes. You need to look at it that way. So we go back to the readiness conversation and we say, so we want to buy ERP. We got a short list. We're dangerous. What do we do next? Somebody out there is from 4 to 1, and let's go buy something. Let's get this done. And
Mhm.
you know what, dude? I love your enthusiasm. I like that go get 'em attitude. Let's get this done. Let's knock this out. This is not sending an email or creating a spreadsheet over how it is we want to make our we want to change our invoicing process. This is a full scale transformation that you need to be ready for. And if you make the mistake of saying all I got to do is pick one and cram it in, which is what every software vendor wants you to believe to a certain extent, then you're going to miss on it. And you're going to find yourself in 6 months trying to figure out where it is you are in this process, why it is you're 6 months in, and already over budget, and your vendor's already asking for another year and a half on this, right? So at the end of the day, what do we do next? We start to look at our business. We start to think about our transformation, and that's what I think we'll talk about next week. And all right, what is this an actual process now? How do we turn this into something that we can be ready for and that we can do well? Because at the end of the day, every single failed ERP implementation has its roots in somebody screwing it up. Let's not screw it up. Let's get this, let's set our feet, let's get ready for it. And then once we're ready for it, we'll set up our structure, our program governance, and those types of things so that we can run this implementation effectively and move on.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we'll really get into. Joe has already given us an agenda. So thank you for that. Validating vendors, getting that alignment, especially at the executive level, and then start your implementation readiness. And we actually don't offer software selection. We only offer implementation readiness. So we have a selection opportunity in implementation readiness because our methodology is so entwined with the two, which is why we have no problem giving you a short list, right? That's no issue for us because that is not part of implementation readiness. It is part of your research, right? To decide what system you need or to look at potentially from a top line view what is going to be best for your organization. And then the real work starts when you dig into that.
Yeah.
So next week we'll go ahead and get into that. But in the meantime, again, we welcome and appreciate feedback on the tool. We know it's new to the marketplace. We know our marketplace is changing. And as consultants, right, it's our job to be agile and keep up with that in order to most effectively service our community and our clients. So I know Adam and I appreciate your time today. Appreciate you listening to this. If you do have questions and you're watching the replay, just drop them in the comments. I always go back in and the team and answer those questions so that we can, get you all of the information that you need in these live streams. We do go live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time here in the States. So we hope you'll join us each week. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And we love to see you guys each week. Usually you drive the conversation and we're just here as the facilitators because you guys have such great ideas. So with that, thank you, Adam, for your insight today. We appreciate you walking us through the tool. Thank you to the audience for all your great questions, and we will see you next week.
Thanks.